one and do the best you can. Yesterday doesn't matter. It only serves as a ladder. Tomorrow isn't guaranteed, so make your plans accordingly. Today is a new day to start again. Take each moment one by one and do the best you can. Grand Rising, today is a new day to start again. It is. I'm all off my game now. My notes are bad news. So I already did this once, and my sound was not off because I had my Bluetooth on. So I'm hoping that my sound is on now. I've got everything kind of in order. It was really good video, I promise. I enjoyed it. Bodie enjoyed it. I have a cat named Bodie, if you're not familiar. But here we go. We're going to start this off again. Can you hear me if you're on there? I was having problems with audio. Let's do this. Let's go home. No. Oh, here we go. Now I'm on live. Let me see if I hear myself. Oh, here we go. There we go. Cool. Now I'm on live. We're rocking and rolling now. I'm on. All right. So let's get into it. I already did this once. So I'm going to try to, I got to do the Bible verse first. I did a whole Bible verse. I read it. I botched it up. So at least I get to do this one. Oh no, my phone's dying. I think I got enough time. If anybody wants to get on here, we could have a problem. Here we go. We're in Job 31:3. I guess we're just going to start with 7 and we'll read down to 31. Among the bushes they bray, under the nettles they huddle together, a senseless, disreputable brood. They have been whipped out of the land. And now they mock me in song. I am a byword to them. They adore me. They keep aloof from me. They do not hesitate to spit on the sight of me, because God has loosed my bowstring and humbled me. They have cast off restraint in my presence. On my right hand, the rabble rise up. They send me sprawling and build roads for my ruin. They break up my path. They promote my calamity. No one restrains them. As though a wide breach they come. As through a wide breach they come. Amid the crash they roll on. Terrors are turned upon me. My honor is pursued as by the wind. And my prosperity has passed away like a cloud. And now my soul is poured out within me. Days of affliction have taken a hold of me. The night racks my bones, and the pain that gnaws me takes no rest. With violence he seizes my garment. He grasps me by the collar of my tunic. He has cast me into the mire, and I have become like dust and ashes. I cry to you, and you do not answer me. I stand, you merely look at me. You have turned cruel to me. With the might of your hand, you persecute me. You lift me up with the wind. You make me ride on it. And you toss me about in the rear of the storm, in the roar of the storm. I know that you will bring me to the death, into the house appointed for all living. Surely one does not turn against the needy. When in disaster, they cry for help. Did I not weep for those for whose day was hard? Was not my soul grieved for the poor? But when I looked for good, evil came. And when I waited for light, Darkness came. My inward parts are in turmoil and never still. Days of affliction come to meet me. I go about in sunless gloom. I stand up in assembly and cry for help. I am a brother of jackals and a companion of ostriches. My skin turns black and falls from me. My bones burn and burn with heat. My lyre is turned to mourning, and my pipe to the voice of those who weep. Well, that was strong. Got me a little emotional. All right. So I really enjoyed that. What I've been deciding to do is I'm going to read it and then just kind of leave it alone and just kind of go into what I was going to talk about. I'm going to circle back and do a written analysis of this verse later. Hello. Cool. At least I got some interaction. My phone is in trouble as far as power, and I don't think I can clip it. So at least everybody can hear me. Let's get into North Node. So I started on the side with purpose. What I wanted to do was talk about one of the things that's helped me, because I have had to deal with a lot of things by myself, was to find a place to make your own space. And sometimes that has to be really small. You hear of people in war, they'll take a couple things, mementos, things that they have with them that is their home, basically, that they're striving to go back to. You need that. And I think you can make that bigger too and build from it. You don't have to make it that big, but it's important to put things that you love in a place where you know where it is and that you can come back to whenever you have to go somewhere that you can find as a peaceful place. I think it's really important. So I had that as something I had on the side. One of the most important things I've learned about being alone is to find things you love, put your intent into making a place you love, something you can carry with you, your own home that you can build from there. And I think that's important. And then before I even started this whole North Node thing, my first instincts that I had was something led me to Ra because of the sun, and the sun has something to the ecliptic has something to do. Anyways, Ra was the first king on Earth. Osiris, king of, and I wasn't sure what F was. I was writing something there. But then you have Isis and Set, the two twins. Set murders Isis, the Cain and Abel. That brought me into the Horus idea. Is Abel and Horus have some kind of, and then also Jesus and the falcon, the sun. And then that led me to spiritual democracy. I think that's what um, was achieved at a certain place in our humanity, was this idea of how your deeds and how you live your life and the words that you actually say have merit to them that leads you to prominence, but it is in a way that is not detrimental. It's more in a growth type of way where you're not exalted. In fact, you try to shy from exaltation. Breathing in through the nose, our bodies were meant to breathe in through the nose, and in we breathe in through the mouth. It's like fueling the fire. It's more heat induced, I think, and it dries your tongue. Hairs in your nose gets guidance from mother, the water in the air and the dust in the wind. All we are is dust in the wind. All right, so I guess now I can get into my actual pages. What I was planning on doing was I was going to go through my pages. When I get to the end of it, I'll open it up. If no one wants to get on here, I don't even know how that works, but if they do, I'm really running out of gas on my phone. So we're going to dive in. North Node. So the first thing I did, I found the symbol. It's that guy right there. So what I found was interesting is the definition of North Node is a point in the sky, person's path, node of destiny. That's the first few things that you see. What I thought was hilarious is that is not a point. It's kind of cool. Anyways, that's not a point. So the symbol and the name don't make no sense. But let's just start into, then you can dissect north and node, and both of those are wow. Lunar node. So I didn't want to go too far off in the branches. So I dropped down to what's the lunar node. Moon's orbit is what it says. Intersects the ecliptic is what it says. Sun's apparent path across the sky. Why does it say that? Mathematical points that move in relation to the eclipse cycles. So that's basically what it is. They have observed that there is an ecliptic, which I think is basically the idea of the paths of the sun and the moon, that in latitude in optical observation. This is how dense it gets. And then you stop for a second. I created a glossary. I started to just go back, and I'm like, okay, so let's go back to this. That brought me all the way to the top of the page, and there was something about cult. And I thought it was interesting because that started to take me down what is cult. And actually, cult isn't a negative thing. It could be a useful tool in our humanity. If we use cults properly, they can be very productive. It's an arm, basically. But then I got into definitions, and it's been demonized because I don't want to get into it. Definitions. Lunar and moon, are they the same? I was trying to make sure that was correct because there's a lot to it. I'm sure that they are, but I really didn't go that deep into it. And then orbit. What is an orbit? Ecliptic. Apparent. Can you define apparent? Then a kinematic. That got me into inverse kinematics. And inverse kinematics is like reverse engineering of how we came up with robots. And I just kind of went crazy for a second and was like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do with this video. I can't. And then so I was like, let's go back to north. And I just started with looking at what the definition of north was. And so then I'm like, all right, let's go back to what our subject is, North Node. Let's just not be coy about all this. And when I got into North Node, there's Eastern and Western ideas of what the North Node is. But Eastern and Western is really kind of a concept that's been created recently to bring things together that aren't necessarily together. Like, not all the Eastern Indian astrology is the same, just like not all the West. It's so crazy. So then Vedic astrology, and then I dipped into India, and I live in Indiana. Do you not think that there's something to do with that? There's no reason, there's no way that our state, Indiana, is not named in some way to do with India. Have a correlation. There has to be. And it's so crazy. Then I went into Western. The idea of the North, I wanted to keep circling back to North Node. And there's not really a South Node. It's really just North in this idea. And it's really, really, when you get down to it, you're talking about magnetism. And we don't really understand magnetism, but what we have is this ability to take a magnet, if you want to call it that, and put it in the middle of water and have it to where it has a stem, iron stem, basically, that, and when you set it there, it will go away. And that's really what the idea of north was. But it was only in a sense that where you're holding it like this and you're walking this way. I'll get into it in a minute. So let's stay with where I was supposed to really dive into if I wanted to get deep into this. Was Astrology of Personality, was a book I was referenced to, which I need to look into. But basically what I was trying to find was what I always do, is find where does the concreteness come from. And first of all, you have the symbology, but then you have the words. And what we actually have in text form comes from like the 3rd and 4th century of scraps that are translations of items that were way more ancient than that. But we have the scraps of these things, which really what we have is written interpretations of people much later that wrote what their interpretations of what people were thinking at the time of their writing and saying about things that people used to say about this scraps of these words that they have that they pieced together. And they had less at the time probably than were available because communication wasn't the same as it is now. Like now, you can communicate right now. I found this. Look, it's different than it was. So that's everything's catching up with the fact that we're able to see anything that was lies. The truth comes out because of light, because this is light, really. That was so deep. Anyways, so north and the north node and the south node, that's something that was painted on the idea of north, but it is essential, and there are nodes that we use. So let's get into where are we at. I'm going to keep moving along with my pages because I don't have much juice on my phone. We're not in the red yet. All right, so my pages are all a frill. So most of what we have of what we consider to be Eastern and Western ancient philosophy is from the 1900s interpretations of people that were the geniuses. So they say that added basic, and they added this idea of the North and South, the South part. There seems to be imagery that was added into that's of the time of these Rahu and Ketu, and using that in the symbolism. But these are interpretations really that they are directly linked. They've been linked by people that say they are linked. North is determined from the latitude of where the sun and the moon are versus, and so then it get into what is actually south, and in the we're down to 10%. And what it says, south node are comets. I wonder if I could switch. Anyways, I'll just move on from it. Comets are like moving items that aren't trackable that happen, and that's what south nodes really were in the etymology of what Ketu was when you're linking it that way. So that's not really the opposite of north. Original astrology, not horoscopes. It was the scope of Horus. And then what did I write here? This is beneficent, 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 and malneficent. I always have a struggle saying those. Struggle. This is really helping me with my time situation. So north. So then I'm like, all right, let's just go back. North node. Let's start with north. North. Direction. You look up north. The definition of north. Direction, compass, normally points. What? That's what it is? One of the 4 compass points is a compass. It's all. So what is north? Where does it come from? It's a Germanic. It comes from the German, Nordic, from way up in Germany, where everything seems to come from. Old High German is the oldest German, and that comes from what I understand, 500 to 700. And I don't know if that's BC or AD. I think it's AD. So that's where this stuff is coming from, like the scraps. Old High encompasses. That's what I thought was funny, is in the definition of what Old High and in its understanding of this. Old High German encompasses, and we're all talking about compasses. I think because they started to use the idea of this magnetism, and the needle was really what a compass is. They just gave it a name. Relish fun, is somehow I landed there, is some chart of Germany of how the language evolved. It's very interesting. That's something that you could dive deep into. And just these names, Rhenish fun. But I didn't want to go that way right now. What is a compass? A tool that indicates direction. Magnetized needle aligns with magnetic field, magnetic north, thereby pointing towards magnetic north. So you hold this thing flat, set this thing on there. It's got a needle in the middle and the thing. There isn't really anything other than this goes like this. So either it's pointing this way or it's pointing this way. One of the two when you put it on there, when you put a thing on there. So then you can put a crossbar on it. Now you got cardinal. Cardinal is really just for here. You can do this. You're here. So then you're walking along and then you start to go up, you start to go down, and you're like, okay, I can do elevation now. And you also will look up at the sky. But in reality, I'm going to keep going with what I'm doing here. The needle points, that's what they say north is, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It's even in there, even in what they say, it's just really it's aligning with the field. It's aligning with the field, which still I don't know what north is. I don't know what north means. Is anybody following me? North isn't real, is what I'm saying. There is no North Pole. Cardinal directions is what we have with the compass. And why cardinal? Why cardinal? Cardo, axis. Axis. Hinge based on where needle points sets north. It creates a right angle whenever you put a bar on it. When it's got to be flat. In water, it's got to be in water. So then I looked up direction because we got cardinal. I was trying to figure that out. And then I went direction. Do you know what the definition of a direction is? It's a course along which someone moves. Are you serious? That's what the definition. I go this way. That's the direction. So this needle, wherever it's doing, that's north. What is a okay? The back end is my pages are messed up. Magnetic field. So that's what you're doing, and it's a shifting field. There's no physical location. Magnetic field is not perfectly aligned with the rotational, here it comes, axis. The compass is a direction. It is not to a location. This is a huge difference in observation. So if that's what you acknowledge, it's a complete different idea than going to the North Pole. The eclipses are measurements of what? Astrology or astronomy? So again, we're going to go back to the magnet. So you have this thing, it's on water. You stick the magnet in the middle. I didn't understand that. I remembered in class you did some stuff where you're rubbing and you made the electrons jump from one to another and it made it do this. But I don't think any of that's true. But in the magnet, it's basically there is a ball magnet in the middle and it sits on that. And then you have a bar going and it'll, for some reason, it makes it go that way. According to what it says, it's because you're going to the North Pole. Anyways, so whenever you look this stuff up, understanding what a magnet is, it always comes back to the core of the earth with this iron core and this molten lava, and that creates a pole of the. And then my only issue, well, I have a lot of issues with this little picture that we get, but there's a curry point from what I understand of magnetism, and I think that I've never explored that enough. But and then magnetic, the rock, the iron suspended in water, basically. Then I have the sun is on an apparent path. It's a cycle, it seems to go around. The fancy illusion is I think most people think that when the sun is moving around like that, in their head, what they're thinking is that it's because the sun is moving. But according to the observations of what our celestial observations versus our terrestrial is, when we see the sun moving, it's not because the sun's moving. It's because we are moving. The sun is actually moving according to them, but we're not. That's not why it's moving in the sky. But it's a trick that I think happens in our head that we just allow. When you say that to a kid, they're like, "But it's moving," and I'm not. But that's not what's happening, and so that's just the way it is, and you have to take that on faith. Side note: I took away TikTok. There was a clock that I had, an old clock. It was battery powered that was in this house and it was going tick, tick, tick. I think there is a talk. Does it go tick tock literally? I don't think there's two different sounds. Maybe there is though. But it's called TikTok, and I moved it because it was a clock that I'd had in there for 8 months, and I'd been listening to it. It was kind of annoying. I kept hearing it, and I don't like hearing that. Maybe an hourglass would be better. I should get one of those. Anyways, I took it out and took the battery out. It was really easy to do. I should have done it a long time ago. Now I don't have to listen to my TikTok, and I can just have a peaceful morning without having to listen to that going, you got to go, you got to go. I tried the social thing. I've been trying it a lot more. It can be really challenging because I do feel the energy of other people more than I ever have in my life. And so I really don't know how to describe how difficult it can be sometimes. So to circle back to North Node, I love the circle back in conversations when we are in a convo and there's something that you're like, hey, I like that. Let's parking lot that. Let's put that to the parking lot. I think that sometimes those are the ones that we don't come back to that we should have stayed with where we were at because we were being drawn to that. So then I went back and I'm like, okay, we're back to North Node. I don't understand North Node. I don't know what it is. Is there a South Node or is there just a node? A point of connection is what it says if you look up North Node. Or, so that's the first part, a point of connection, just a point of connection is what a North Node is. Or an intersection within a network where information of data is exchanged, visualized as a knot or a swelling in a system. I literally laughed the devil's laugh when I began reading and trying to understand what like Google's definition of what the North Node is. And to say the devil is a child of God, just for those that don't know, if you believe in God devil dynamic. A point on a plant stem where a leaf grows is also a node, a point of a plant stem. So right where the where we don't know what happens, that's a node. So as a node, I asked as a node a nipple, and then I looked into the anatomy. It's a small node. Is it's an inflammation basically, and then the idea of what a mathematical node is. And then there's a biological node. There's an optical phenomenon. Where does node come from? It's Latin. Why is the strange things always come from Latin? But the origin is not. That's where it actually comes from. Not. That's what a node is. Just very strange. So a lunar node. Why is it called a moon knot? What's a knot? Or a moon swelling? That's what we were looking at. That's what a lunar node is. Why is it called a moon knot? Moon swelling. Why? Why? Answer that one. Quit parking lotting it. I want to know. I want to know why it's called a moon node. Why it's a knot. Does it get untied? The most important questions are the ones that we just stopped asking. It's a mathematical optical observation, is what it's a prediction, is what a node is, a lunar node is, and a sometimes the moon's apparent path in the sky comes the same path as the sun's apparent path. I thought it was interesting that it said the moon's, no, it says moon's apparent. Both are apparent. And the moon appears to block the light of the sun, causing darkness. Oh, it's because I wrote this. Brief period. It's a brief period of time that happens because of a cycle that we see in our sky. We can't control it. We can watch it. We watch the cycle. It's a baseline, basically, of movement. And we base our lives upon the wheel of the sky. But don't get it twisted. It's we can predict. We can't control. It's happening. Weather, weather. Whether we like it or not, the weather is the way it is, whether we like it or not. Weather happens. Weather on Earth is likely influenced by the flow of energy and the magnetism, the electricity, the heat, the freeze, the water, the rain dances, the ice, the melted earth into plasma, cooled to black rock. Where does salt come from? The salt of the earth. The salt in tears taste soothing. You ever had a tearing moment that turned into a little bit of a laugh, and then you gets down into your mouth and you taste it, and it's soothing, sometimes warm. North Node. I can't do it. I can't. I don't know what north is. I don't. A node is a knot, so I don't really understand where the arrow points on this fancy device that I held in my hand. So basically, like I said, we're doing this, and then we're walking up and down, and then we're going like this. It's actually a simple application of just a needle on water is what we're doing. We know that that happens. North on my ancient compass or the cell phone that I use, the GPS that's using Skynet, does not lead me to a North Pole. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We're getting close. I think I'm going to get it in. I don't know that I'm going to be able to talk much after because it's about done. Somebody said hi. Hi. The cardinal directions determine the needle pointing, and good for about the distance that it takes you to follow the sun from one of your horizons to the other. Navigation is really done with physical geography. We know where the big ass mountain is, and it's always there. And my arrow points that way. That mountain is the way. So north is that way until I get to the top of the mountain. And the compass is a little acting kind of weird as we go up there. But it's a beautiful view, but damn, it's cold. And as I get closer to the sun, which is bringing the heat, it's colder. And the air, I can't breathe. Let's go back down to the ground and follow north again on the other side of the mountain. Santa Claus is coming to town. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows when you've been bad or good. So be good for goodness sakes. You better watch out. You better not pout. You better not cry. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. All right. I got it in. Well, I did a whole video. I'm not sure which one was better. And I did not have any audio. So I'm going to take that one down and put this one back up. But I think I got it in for the day. Work in progress is what we've got going on here. I still don't really know about doing the letting people on here. I wish I knew how to drop a link. Does anybody know how to drop a link? Retouch? Uh-oh. We don't want that. Share? Nah. Any experts? I think there's one person on there. Well, I guess that's the end of her. That's all I got. I'm ready to roll into my day. I hope everybody has a good day out there. I did get a new necklace if anybody was wondering about that. I don't think it's anything bad. This is just rose quartz and it's a hexagon. And I looked up a hexagon and I really resonated with it actually. So Bodhi's over here. I've been enjoying my time with my cat. She's doing great. It's been a great addition to my life. Really, it's made everything so much better for me, honestly. If you have the ability to get they call them, what do they call them? Comfort animals? I just think being lonely, there's no real reason for it. There's plenty of people out there and animals out there that need love if you have the ability to give them love. But I think it's good to have that as well. So I hope everybody has a great day out there. Do great. Be great. Be grateful.